Hello, Curl Up with Cathy Bramley here, and today my guest is the wonderful Rachael Lucas. Here she is. I'm just going to show her. I keep having problems with my cursor, but she's going to appear any second by my side. Oh no, by that side.
Here I am.
Hello.
Hello.
Isn't this nice?
It is lovely. It's actually very nice to talk to somebody who doesn't live in my house and who isn't a dog.
That is a very good point. That is a very good point. Yes.
No, well, we're actually. Sorry, go on.
Go and lean to the side so we can see Scarlett. Ooh, thank you. So Rachael has just recently moved into a new house, and you've got an Aga. So as long as I've known Rachael, which is quite a few years now, she's wanted an Aga, and she's just got one. How happy are you with your Aga?
So happy. I have to say, I do feel like the universe has just gone, you really like that Aga? Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we put you in 14-day lockdown with your children?
And your Aga.
And your Aga. And then we'll see if you like it. But actually, I do, although we did have a minor falling out yesterday when I made a Bakewell tart and was just about to put it in the oven. I don't know if you saw that on my Instagram. Then it lifted it up and hit the rail of the top of the Aga, and the whole thing just flipped.
Yeah.
And it didn't just fall. I mean, the stickiest thing you could possibly think of that could fall. But also, I was so looking forward to that Bakewell tart, and that was it. Because we were in total lockdown, because we have a teenager who is, or two teenagers now actually, who are showing some symptoms. We're trapped. It's fine.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine. You wouldn't want to be anywhere else, would you?
Nope. No, I love it here. It's great. It's really good. I don't know if you've seen there's actually a cartoon which is like it's just a picture of somebody, and it's like introverts waiting for everybody to leave so they can have the house back to themselves. And that is basically, I'm just like, I don't want to go anywhere. I just want them all to
leave. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because as writers, we work alone. We self-isolate to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the time, and we need that self-isolation to work. I certainly do. I need complete peace and quiet, and even in my house where I can actually get away, I still go into the bedroom as far away from everyone else as possible, sit with headphones or earplugs in, and just drown out that sort of background noise. I really need that time. And
I think it's knowing that there's other people in the house, though. Even then, you've still got to try and block it out, haven't you?
Yeah.
I think,
yeah.
And if you're like me and you move to a house, I've always had a study, and I've just moved to a house without a study because I thought, well, I basically would give up everything to have this lovely Aga. So that was fine because I thought it's okay, I'll write at the kitchen table with the 3 dogs and the 5 teenagers and the husband, who's now obviously also having to self-isolate. So so that's fun.
Great fun.
Yeah, no, actually, do you know what? I say that I did actually manage to get a decent chunk of writing done this morning, and I think I might have cracked it. So,
good. So new books in the future. Yep. Fantastic. That's what we want to hear. Rachael Lucas fans, good news for you. Well, I've just handed in a first draft of a book, which won't be out for a couple of years, but I'm going to get that back with edits soon, which is my worst nightmare. I hate edits. So I'll be doing that with a house full. But I can, as long as the weather's okay, I can come up to the treehouse and self-isolate up here, which is rather nice. And then just ignore my phone. And there's no Wi-Fi.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I think that the secret, especially at the moment, is to be able to just switch the phone off. And I think once the weather gets a bit nicer, I can go and sit in the garden as well and try and get stuff.
Get a little gazebo or something.
Yeah.
Sit in there with a little table. Yeah. So there's no Wi-Fi up here, but I've connected via my phone. But I could, if I wanted to, leave my phone in the house and just bring my laptop up here to work. But
which would be really good because that would kind of get you in the zone, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I was speaking to Sarah Morgan recently, and she was saying that where she works, there's no Wi-Fi.
And that's how a really nice writing.
That's how she concentrates, by just not having any Wi-Fi.
I think it really helps.
It does. Yeah, it does. I mean, you and I write very well when we're away from home, don't we? We go on lots of writing retreats. And in fact, the last time I saw you was by an Aga, because we had that lovely place in Yorkshire.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I really like going on writing retreats and actually writing. And in fact, on Cheska's writing retreats that we go on quite well, twice a year, I
Twice a
tend
year,
to get a lot done of a first draft, and I just write basically all day. But those ones in Yorkshire, I run and then I just cook, and that's really nice because I'm cooking and not having to think about writing. Although actually I find I am thinking about writing a lot. But just being in that sort of environment of people writing really helps you get in the zone, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And then you can come back down at for dinner and talk about what you've done, and just talk about any problems you've had. And when we're away with other writers, there's always someone who's been through what you're going through. And also, if you say I'm really stuck with something, they just understand and they can come up with lots of
I think
ideas
so.
to help
And
you.
I think because writers are readers, obviously, I think the other thing that helps is sometimes you can be really, really stuck on something, and they're looking at it not just from a writing perspective, but also from a, you know, I'm going to want to read this perspective. Because, you know, we quite often, like you and I quite often read each other's books before they're, you know, when they're just in the sort of first draft stage, and you can sort of say, well, what about this? Because you're actually thinking about what you would want to read in the story. So I think that really helps.
We definitely, you and I often have chats where we're sorting little plot problems out, don't we? Or I'll send you.
That's about to come. Actually, you're going to get that later.
Well, same, because I've been talking about an idea for my next book, so I need to talk to you about that and see what you think.
Yeah, because at the moment I have literally got, you know, most of the story, but then I have literally the quite a key point is I have just written a thing happens.
Yeah, a thing happens. Yeah.
I don't know what the thing is, but
I think I can help you with that thing.
Yeah, you probably can.
Yeah,
I hope
think
so.
I can.
I think sometimes you're just too close to it, and when you're, you know, but the thing is also, I think sometimes you just have to wait and see what the story does. I mean, I always think about Sealed with a Kiss, which was the first book I wrote, and I always think about the fact that, you know, first of all, the title was a joke because it wasn't, the seal just arrived in the story, and you know, the story of them rescuing this baby seal ended up being a key part of the book, but the seal just arrived in the book, and I was like, oh, I don't know anything about seals. And then, you know, the joke title Sealed with a Kiss stuck, and here we are 7 years later. But yes, so I'm assuming that the thing will just come to me.
It will sort itself out. Yeah. I mean, I've just finished what I was writing recently. I got to the end, and I just knew something needed to happen so everything else could fall into place. But I wasn't sure what it was. And all I could do is walk around in a daze around the house and just sort of half listening to things. And then eventually it just clicked, and I was like, oh yeah. And then then everything fell into place, and I was able to finish. I was so excited. I just couldn't wait to write that last bit.
That's such a nice feeling. But it's such a funny thing, I think, for our families. I mean, because Rory, my youngest, has just walked in, and I was writing, and he said, oh, what's this one about then? And I was like, oh God, I'm going to have to stop and tell you, because I don't want to go shh. So I was like, oh, well, it's about this. And then he said, and they started trying to ask me some other questions about, you know, is there any bread in the cupboard? And you know, if we've got any peanut butter. And I answered both of the questions as if it was on a time delay, and neither of them. I was like, I basically said, I don't know, it might be in the bathroom. And he went, shall I just leave you? And I went, but they're quite used to, you know, mummy in writing mode equals person who makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, just very vague.
Yeah.
Nothing behind the eyes.
Nothing. Isn't it funny? And I think that's the thing about when we go on these writing retreats, is that we come downstairs and you know, it's dinner time and we're like this, you know, and nobody expects anything. I think what's nice is we're not actually expected to think about anything apart from book stuff. But it's quite a sort of strange, solitary, self-contained kind of thing, isn't it? I think living in your own head is a weird thing to
do. So when we're on these retreats, you know, we're all there, and it sounds like a really sociable thing, doesn't it? But actually
it's really not.
There's 8 of us all completely silent in our own rooms, writing away, and then just passing each other towards the kettle and back, and then like
shuffling about in our socks and our leggings,
and dressing gown still on at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Exactly.
So it is really nice, but you just sort of feel amongst people that understand you, don't you?
It does help. It really does help.
Yeah, it does. I had a little Airbnb just by myself earlier this year for a weekend. I think it was beginning of February or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was really weird, but it was great. And I took
It's
all
so
my
nice,
food with me.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I just wrote and wrote and wrote for the whole 2 days because there was nothing to distract me. And that's the thing.
And actually, I think that's a really good point, actually, for people who are thinking about writing. Particularly, I think, because there's quite a lot of people who are thinking, oh, now is a really good time to write, is, if you don't have lots of children or family members or people staying with you, then, now if you're stuck in isolation, probably is quite a good time to write. But
I think you've got to
be kind to yourself, because I think that now is maybe not,
it isn't
great time for concentrating. It's certainly not for me. I'm fine.
I think what we know as full-time writers is that you need to be able to put aside everything that's, worrying you and bothering you, empty your head of that and just go somewhere else. You have to go out of it. And that's really hard because there's a level of anxiety at the moment, isn't there, that's there all the time. I mean, people are saying that they're not sleeping very well. And I mean, I had the most bizarre dream last night.
Just about to say, some people are having weird dreams.
Yeah. I had a dream about Rachel last night. We both had a baby. They were twins. We had one each. And actually I won't continue. It's quite a revolting story. But anyway, so yeah.
But no, I'm having really weird dreams. But I also have got this thing at the moment where I like to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to have a mild panic about the state of the world, and then I drop off to sleep again.
Yeah,
so that's nice.
I think I was with you this morning.
My sister quite often texts at 3 in the morning and says, how are you awake? And I'm like, and then we'll have a little chat about Harry and Meghan, and then we come back to sleep. So royal gossip is what's keeping me going at the moment.
It's just what's for dinner is keeping me going. Meals just seem to take over everything, don't they? We're hoping to have an Indian takeaway tonight.
We had, because it was Archie's birthday last night. Oh, sorry about all the dogs. We had Domino's, which was delivered very carefully to our gate. Oh God, it was so nice not to have to cook.
Yeah. Well, we're thinking we'll get a delivery.
Yeah.
I rang them yesterday just to hope that they were still working.
They're like, please.
And then, are you still working? And he said, yeah, we are, but for as long as we can. I was thinking, just please for tomorrow, just one more day.
Yeah. It's just, the thing is, I really, really like cooking, but I also hadn't really realized how much I didn't really, really like having to be the person that was, doing everything. And unfortunately in my house, it's my own fault because I'm a kitchen control freak. And I'm like, no, I'll do it all. It's fun.
You are quite freaky.
Yeah. Well, because you've been.
Yeah. Honestly, I was like constantly wiping up every crumb. Trying God, she's coming.
Yeah. So, and it's so funny because actually I saw Katie Ford this morning on Twitter saying, gosh, you don't understand how all these writers are having, seem to be having less time, and there are people out there who are writers and they're baking bread. And I said, oh no, I'm only baking bread because we can't get to the shop. I mean, I do like baking bread anyway, but it turns out I don't actually like having to bake bread every day because otherwise there's no bread. So
I know what you mean. Yeah. We've got a delivery driver desperately trying to maneuver around our drive with the dog. Someone's let the dog out onto the drive. Anyway,
meanwhile, my delivery has that I was really excited about that has disappeared back to sender.
So the man is now doing a 3% on our front lawn.
Oh,
Tony's going to go bananas when he sees the state of it.
A plus note,
it's
going to have lots of time to grow, isn't it?
Lots of time to grow. Yeah, very much so. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, let's talk about your book. Should we talk about your book?
Yes, we can talk about my book. This is my book.
That's Rachel's book, The Telephone Box Library, which came out earlier this year.
It did.
And you are very, very lucky because this book is still in the shops, in the supermarkets.
Really, really lucky. I think lucky because I kind of got in before all of this happened and this, stopped selling books, saying that they're not essential, which is,
wrong.
Rude. I think, because actually, I've spoken to people who've said, well, no, I really, really, this is, the one thing I do want to be doing right now is reading. So yeah, really lucky. Also really lucky because usually, books tend to only have a shelf life of about 3 weeks. But luckily, I think that it's just been one that has actually kind of people have picked up and gone, oh, thank goodness we can escape.
Yeah,
So
it's lovely.
it's really
It's a
nice.
lovely story.
Yeah.
I know you've probably written about 8 books since this one, so you probably can't remember all the details, but it's set in a little village.
It is. It's about
Buckinghamshire sort of area,
yeah,
is it?
it's about Lucy, who's a history teacher who's really burnt out, and she goes to live in the countryside for a little while. I keep saying I've just realised Cressy said she was saying lots. So obviously I'm not going to make it as a newsreader. I'll just have to carry on writing. Another M.
So Lucy, burnt out history teacher.
So she heads to this village where she's going to go, and she, in exchange for a little cottage, looks after Bunty, who is 94, very much does not want to be looked after. And she's just basically meant to be popping in on her and making sure she's all right from day to day. And the village telephone box is opposite Bunty's house. And they decide that rather than taking it away because it's no longer being used, they're going to turn it into a library, which Bunty isn't very keen on. And we discover that the reason for that is because she has some history with the telephone box. And so the story is all about what, the village and how they put together the telephone box, but it's also got another strand, which is about Bunty and the work that she did during the war, which was a kind of offshoot of Bletchley Park. So
yeah.
And it's actually based very much on a true story. It's based on the village I used to live in Buckinghamshire, and the research for it was amazing because I'm a real sort of nerd and love that stuff. And I went to Bletchley Park and I found out all about it. And it's something that I could write. I would really actually quite like to write a whole book about it, but it's quite hard writing historical fiction because you've got to make sure everything sounds like it should do.
Yeah.
That was the bit that was tricky, but I really enjoyed it. So.
Yeah, no, it's a lovely book, and I recommend everybody to put it in their virtual baskets next time they go book shopping, or actual baskets if you manage to.
Oh, actually, well, yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I think it's still in the supermarkets, but obviously, presumably they're going to sell out, aren't they? But I think it's still only 99p on Kindle, actually. So
99p bargain, or iBooks presumably, or Kobo,
or iBooks or Kobo. Yes, exactly.
Fantastic.
So that's
So what's the rest of the day looking like for you?
Well, I've emailed a synopsis for my next book. Ooh. No, actually, the next book after.
Yeah.
The next book to my agent, and I'm hoping that she's going to come back quickly and say, "Yeah, this is great," and then we'll send it off to my editor. And then what I'm going to do is try and find a space in the house because, like you, I'm going to have to try and really, I've spent a week going, oh my goodness, and now it's actually time to think, you know what, I need to actually get on with doing some work. So I'm going to have to find a space. I'm going to have to think very hard about how I'm going to actually work in this situation and sort of start to set myself some targets, I think, because basically I am about 5 in my head, and if somebody gives me a little sticker, I'm happy. So if I can sort of set myself little virtual targets, and each day that I achieve them, I'll get a little star on a star chart, then I'll be quite happy.
Yeah, jolly good. Well, I'm going to say goodbye on screen, but then don't go away because you can stay at the bottom and I'll say goodbye properly in a second. But for now, thank you very much for joining me, Rachael Lucas.
You are very welcome.
And I'll look forward to seeing you in the flesh very, very soon.
Oh, yes, please.
Bye-bye. Rachael Lucas there, one of my best writing buddies. Lovely to talk to her. And at the moment, I'm not seeing anyone other than my own family, so it's really nice to see a friend. I hope you enjoyed that chat, and I hope you join me again soon. Bye.